Thank you for life, health, and strength. We thank you, O God, for this session of the Senate. We pray your blessings upon Madam President, Vice President, all senators on both sides. We plead the blood of Jesus over the Senate, over our nation. We declare that no weapon formed against us shall prosper. And we thank you now in the name that is above every name. And we all say, Amen. Our Father, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Compliments of the season.
Good morning, Senators. Thank you, Reverend Eileen, for your wonderful prayer as usual. Adoption of minutes.
Madam President, let me see, I beg leave to move for the adoption of the minutes of the last sitting of
6th and 10th.
Yeah, I was trying to just get the two dates.
Yeah.
Of this Senate, which commenced on the 6th and concluded on the 10th day of December of this year. If I may obtain a seconder.
It has been moved and seconded that the minutes be adopted for December 10th, 2018. As many as are in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The minutes of December 12th, 2018 is adopted.
6 to 6.
Yeah. Motions for leave of absence, leave to resign. Swearing in of new senators. Communications by the President. You all just see a wonderful box in front of you called Bootleg, which is a nice box of chocolates by a company in Grand Bahama called Bootleg Bahamas. And so we want to promote Bootleg.
There you go.
And here you go.
Well done.
Right. A Bahamian owned and run company.
Excellent, excellent.
Located in Port Lucaya, Bahamas. Messages from the Governor General.
None.
Messages from the House of Assembly. Laying of documents by ministers.
None.
Communication.
Mass House Assembly, yes.
Oh, well,
Yes.
you know,
Well,
got to be on the ball here.
The clock's got to wake up. It is Christmas.
Everyone has a reprieve.
Bahamas number 21. Message to the Honorable the President and Honorable members of the Senate from the Speaker and representatives of the Honorable House of Assembly. The House of Assembly acquaints the Honorable the Senate that they have passed the following bill and desire the consent of that Honorable Chamber, namely, a bill for an act to amend the Business License Act. House of Assembly, Nassau, 12 December 2018, House and Mutri Speaker.
Laying of documents by ministers. Communications by ministers. Communications by senators. Questions, answers to questions, presentations of petitions, appointment of select committees, reports of committees, first reading of bills.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam President. Before I do, I just would remind colleague senators that with the unanimous consent of the members opposite, we propose to go through all three stages of the bill that I will now ask to be read a first time today in the interests of the people. Madam President, I now beg leave to move that the bill for an act to amend the Business License Act be read a first time. If I may obtain a seconder.
Is there a second? It has been moved and seconded that a bill for an act to amend the Business License Act be read a first time. For the first reading?
As many? As
Oh, I'm
many?
sorry.
As many?
Sorry. Yes.
As many.
As many as are in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Order that the bill be read a first time.
Bill for an act to amend the Business License Act.
Further first readings?
No, ma'am.
Second reading and committal of bills.
Madam President, I beg leave to move for the second reading and committal of a bill for an act to amend the Business License Act. I don't need that. I don't need leave.
Okay.
Thank you. Leave.
All right.
I won't speak long.
All right.
This bill has probably the shortest objects and reasons in recent memory. And it's quite simple what the intent of the bill is. This bill seeks to amend the Business License Act 2010 to reflect the state of the law prior to July 1st, 2018. The second reading now. The second reading committal. And I am moving that this bill be read a second time and committed. Madam President, the opposition, members opposite, in the other place, and no doubt in this place, will make a lot of sound and fury signifying nothing about how the government had to draw back on something that it did in the last budget period and highlighting this as, in their view, some kind of weakness. I view it as a statement really of strength, that the government is prepared to listen, and unlike Pharaoh of old, our hearts were not hardened. Our hearts were open and accommodated to the concerns of the people, most particularly the business class in this country, in a time when we have made a commitment to do everything in our power to improve the ease of doing business in the Bahamas, and to take on and into consideration and to act upon the well thought out and justifiable views of the business community. It does, however, reflect a deep cultural issue that we have in the Bahamas, and really it is, we don't like taxes, howsoever called. And we don't like doing what is necessary to do our parts to ensure that there is a rational and fair basis for the collection of taxes that are due and owing. We want the services of government, but we are not really prepared to pay for them. It's amazing because a good example of this that was recently in the papers was the results of a public survey of voter or popular approval of national health insurance. It was amazing. There's a 98% or something. Incredible level of support of the Bahamian people for national health insurance. But that survey result came hard on the heels of a roiling controversy over a position paper, I think, advanced by the Public Hospitals Authority that outlined a quite reasonable basis for the society as a whole to shoulder the costs of that benefit we so ardently and dearly love, 98% of us. National health insurance. A goal that we all strive towards for a more fair, just, equitable, embracing society to provide an advanced modern system of healthcare that will, all things being equal, provide a system that can accommodate critical, sudden, unforeseen illnesses, that less well-off families would no longer have to hold cookouts, that would be able to assist in the ongoing project of significantly modernizing and improving all of the public wards in the hospital. And recently, I must commend the Minister of Health, Dr. Dwayne Sands, on recently opening a new hyper-modern public ward for poor Bahamians, for people who can't afford to go on the private side. And it's such a beautiful, beautiful piece of work. When we look and we see now that we have 10 beds in our ICU, a state-of-the-art, world-class, modern intensive care unit. When you walk in there, the first thing I said the first time I walked in that building is, I feel like I'm in Miami. I feel like I'm in Miami. And we want these things as a people. We want a government that functions. We want government services. We want schools that are repaired. We want police that have the equipment, the training, and the tools necessary to keep us safe. We want a Royal Bahamas Defense Force that is able to do more than do drills down at the Coral Harbor base, like hop in a boat, go out there, protect our borders from human traffickers, drug smugglers, and poachers. We want all of these things, but as a people, we are loath to pay for them. We have high demands, but we don't want to pay for them. And so, while the complaints of the business sector on this issue might appear to be significant enough to warrant a change in the policy, it begs the question, what mechanisms are we prepared to allow to the state to be able to be sure that there is honesty in the assessment of one's tax liability, particularly by businesses in the country? So it may have been a little too much to ask for businesses between 100,000 whose turnover exceeds $100,000 but is less than 10 million to give their bank statements. Okay, so what statement can you give that would provide the necessary measure not only of transparency but of that it is verifiable as to when you state what your income that year was, your turnover? What is the measure, the standard? How do we do it? How do we arrive at a compromise that allows the revenue to be satisfied, broadly speaking, that it is collecting all that is due to it and nothing more? With businesses over 10 million, whose turnover exceeds 10 million, which is maybe about 20% of 20 businesses or something, 20 or 25 businesses. What does it take? How can they? Okay, so maybe not audited statements, but some kind of financial statements, and then how do we verify them? Because at the end of the day, we want a society that can provide for all, but surely it is based on the premise that those who can pay should pay, in order that the commonwealth of the people may be improved through the process of governance. And so, with those few words, I commend the Minister of Finance for having had the courage not to have a hardened heart, for having had ears that could hear, a heart that could feel, and a mind that could be resolute in taking the decision to instruct my draftspersons in the Ministry, the Office of the Attorney General, to prepare this bill. And we do trust going forward that as a people, we can find that sweet spot, if you will, that balance between necessary oversight to ensure probity, truth, accuracy, and ease of doing business for the common good, the commonwealth of this country. And as we go forward and we come to grapple in time, as we will come to grapple in time with national health insurance, let us remember, you can't get something for nothing. If you want a benefit, there has to be a level at which we as a people are prepared to shoulder whatever the burden is of that benefit, because there's no benefit without a burden. But that is a bridge to cross at another time, hopefully when the economy is doing a lot better. And I think this is a part of the issue as well. And these are my final points. We are crawling our way out of a 5-year-long depression caused by PLP misgovernment. Not a single year between 2012 and 2017 did the former government manage to have positive growth in the economy. In every single year,
Negative.
under their rule, their misrule, it was negative, negative, and negative.
Every
The
year.
economy contracted, shrunk,
Shame on
got
you.
smaller.
Shame on you.
The record is clear.
That's the fact.
Every budget debate, we have brought you the records. I can bring it to you that the former government had a miserable history of misgovernment that caused the Bahamian economy to shrink every year of their governance. We have grown now for the past year and a half.
Positive
The
growth.
Bahamian economy is growing
So there's no evidence of
and will continue to grow, God willing. God willing, will continue to grow. And as the economy firms and gets stronger, then I think that we can all have a more,
Remember, use leader.
less passionate
Can't be
discussion
rowdy. Use leader.
about how best do we
You gotta act differently.
share the burden
You gotta act differently.
of
You can't
making
be rowdy today.
the Commonwealth
Get up, man.
more wealthy for all Bahamians. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Is there a second? Chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Renard Henfield.
Good morning, Madam President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning to the Bahamas. Just on Monday, Madam President, I commended the government for being mature, merciful, and wise. You see, the government had then tabled a bill, and upon suggestion from a sector of society, the decision was made to make a step back, or take a step back, and listen to those persons in that sector, Madam President. Today, this government yet again demonstrates what good governance is about: inclusive decision-making. And I've said before that the people want a government that listens, a government that can make decisions, unlike a government that hires a consultant who will then hire a consultant to tell the government what the people of the Bahamas can already say to the government. So the Business License Amendment number 2 bill of 2018, as we all know, really doesn't need much debate today. The gist of it for the persons listening to my contribution today and the contribution of the other senators in the Senate, the government is seeking to revert to the position prior to July 1, 2018. As usual, before I go any further, Madam President, I wish to profess my faith and give thanks to our Heavenly Father for His goodness and mercies. And I pray that He keeps all of us, the people of the Bahamas, safe during this holy season. And on that note, I wish to remind our people that Christmas is not a gift season, it's Jesus the Christ season. And may we focus on his coming into the world so that we may have had and continue to have a human example of how we are to live, which is good, how we are to talk, which is good, and what we are to do, that which is good. Madam President, the masses made it clear, not only this year, but from leading up to the elections last year, that they are looking for a government that listens, that will consult with the people, and that's what we see being done this week. It was done on Monday, and by this bill before the House today, it is being done yet again. But there still remains, Madam President, persons in this country who are not aware of all the good that the government is doing. There are persons who are not aware that the government is a consultative government. You know, because the narrative has been set and maintained by those who continue to wish to look for anything negative possible to say to the people, that's their role. But I would like to say to those in government that is your obligation and is your mandate to significantly impact the lives of the masses. And while I see that being done, I think more needs to be done to make them aware of what's being done. So I pause each time I rise, Madam President, to make sure that the portion of the nation that follows my contributions are aware of the relief and the burdens that have been removed of the Bahamian people. Madam President, firstly, I seek to bring to the attention of the masses the Over the Hill initiative and or the Inner City program where real property tax or business license fees is removed. So when persons say the government has done nothing to remove or lift the burden, I want to remind the masses of the Over the Hill initiative, the Inner City program. I seek to bring to the attention of the masses, Madam President, that VAT on electricity bills of $300 and under was removed. Yes. And I seek to bring to the attention of the masses nationwide that beginning January 2019, business license fees are to be removed from those small business owners grossing $100,000 or less. And I seek to bring to the attention again, Madam President, to the masses that BTVI tuition is now free as of September. And as of September next year, University of Bahamas tuition will be free to Bahamians. Again, removing a burden on the Bahamian people, all done this year, Madam President. And I seek to remind the masses of something that I pushed for. The government has removed my tax dollars from funding Trinidad's carnival culture in the Bahamas. Removed our tax dollars from being wasted. And again, Madam President, I seek to bring to the masses' attention that this government has made a living accommodation allowance of $500 for persons from the Family Islands seeking to study in New Providence. And again, on the point, as I began, of consultation, Madam President, I seek to bring to the attention of the masses that the government has delayed the nonprofit bill that was debated and passed in the House of Assembly, tabled in the Senate on Monday, to allow for consultation with that sector of society. And I think that is commendable, Madam President. So there is no shame in the government coming today to revert to a position prior to July 1. It again shows that the government listens to the people, it listens to the persons involved in a sector, and it is willing to pivot to make the changes that need to be made to ensure that we do the best that is possible for the Bahamian people. So, Madam President, on that short contribution, I support the bill. I'm happy to second the bill in support of the government's decision to revert to the position prior to July 1, and may God continue to bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and the people of the Bahamas.
Thank you, Senator. It has been moved and seconded that a bill for an act to amend the Business License Act be read a second time and committed as many. Chair recognizes Senator the Honorable JoBeth Colby Davis.
Thank you, Madam President. As always, thank Thank you, my good AG. As always, Madam President, I'm grateful to God for the opportunity to represent in this place on behalf of the Bahamian people. Madam President, I stand today to briefly bring contributions to the Business License Amendment Bill 2018. Madam President, we are here today debating a bill that could have been avoided had this government simply did the one thing that the opposition continues to remind them to do. That is, consult the people and the business community. However, the governance style of this F&M government is similar to that of a toddler who is learning how to potty train. With a toddler, it takes them a couple of accidents and a couple of mistakes before they get it right. Some learn faster than the other, though in this case, it seems like a toddler would learn how to independently use the potty before this F&M government figure out how to govern this country. We are debating an amendment to the business license when in actuality, this wouldn't have come up had this government consulted with the same people that they told it was their time. Why campaign so hard to the Bahamian people, promising them that it is indeed their time if all you have done since May 10, 2017 was waste the people time? The opposition continually reminds this government about the errors in their ways. And we are not doing this as if we know it all, but this is basic politics 101. Consult the people, engage the industry stakeholders, and make laws that can stand the test of time. Clearly, none of that was done because they presented a budget that failed before it even took effect, leaving many to wonder if this is their first rodeo. While it may be the first time some held the positions they now hold in government and the cabinet, we have many, many veterans sitting around the table. As a result, Madam President, they should know better than making this sort of error. The amendment were not well thought out. They were requiring companies with an annual turnover of $10 million or more to provide audited financial statements, and those businesses earning between $0 to $10 million were required to provide a financial statement to Inland Revenue confirming their turnover, which was also to be accompanied by a certified bank statement that advised of each bank account held in the business's name and any other accounts used in transactions on its behalf. Who was the person that thought such extensive stipulations and requirements would make sense to the business community? The only thing this did was created a number of hurdles and increased the burden and added costs to the small to medium businesses' overheads. Madam President, this goes back to what I mentioned in this place last week, that this F&M government is making errors in policy and legislation that could be avoided if they focused on governing this country and listening to the people and business communities. And I must state that I am quite shocked that the F&M, who had all the answers while in opposition, now has all the excuses while in government. Be careful not to become like the boy who cried wolf to the Bahamian people, that when you actually need them to take your word, they turn a deaf ear. Madam President, I further consider the track record of this F&M government. After only 18 months in office, they brought VAT at a 60% increase with no consultation. Last week, we were back to correct their policy and voted to increase the electricity bill ceiling from $200 to $300 for the VAT exemption. Then I heard the Minister of Labor advising that they are renegotiating the renegotiated OBAN deal. Also, it is rumored that they are considering charging storage at PMH Mall. And now we are here to amend the amended Business License Act to revert back to what was already the legal position prior to this F&M government changing the law in their latest budget. Madam President, we have been wasting so much time since May 10, 2017, undoing and renegotiating policies and legislation that this F&M government slogan might as well change to "It's time to waste the people's time." Madam President, the opposition at every point warns this government when they are making a bad policy decision, and we support them as they repair the damages they created, because we love the Bahamas and we care about the Bahamian people. However, I remind them of the saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So F&M government, we expect better from you. The Bahamian people deserve better of you. It is time we get on with the business of this country. Consult the people before making a decision. Consult them again after making a well-thought-out decision. And I remind you, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if you still choose to fix it, be sure you are making it better, not worse. Madam President, as I stated last week, if this F&M government consult the people and be more considerate when drafting and changing legislation, there will be no need for this continued backtracking. In any event, I fully support this amendment, and I rest.
As many? Go ahead. Go ahead.
That's it?
No.
You speaking? Oh, go on.
The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Jamal Moss.
Oh, there you go. Madam President, once again, I want to thank my God, the most merciful, for allowing me here to be here today, and also thank Dr. the Most Honorable Hubert Minnis for his continued confidence in me being here today in this honorable house. Madam President, I rise to speak on the proposed amendments to the Business License Act and related business license regulations. I remember back in January of this year when the Prime Minister, Dr. the Most Honorable Hubert Minnis, announced that the government of the Bahamas will, this year, waive the business license fees for new businesses in order to encourage business development and small business enterprises. The critics, the naysayers, the political pundits, and even the haters have all said that this was just political talk and will not come to light. Well, I say to them, it is here. Madam President, I commend the Most Honorable Prime Minister and this government for keeping their promises and continuing the promised delivery train to stay on track by delivering more much-needed relief to Bahamians, especially the ones that plays a role in our local economy. The F&M government is a firm supporter of the ease of doing business, and because of our firm belief, we are advancing through this proposed bill initiatives to make it easier for persons to get into business and to stay into business. According to the Most Honorable Prime Minister, he said in the other house, and I quote, "The most significant adjustment we are proposing is to roll back the planned amendments to the recently passed business license regulations that would have a required audit, financials, and bank statements. We have determined that given where we are and the likely need for further reform of the tax reform in the light of recently debated legislations around our offshore sector, we will defer these and other planned changes to the reporting regime until such considered in the bordered tax reform effort." End quote. With that being said, that means this will mean that with this bill, it will waive business license fees for business with earnings of under $100,000 to help the economic relief for the small businesses. These businesses will still have to go through the licensing process, but will be exempted from the business license fees in 2018. Madam President, it is important that we remind the public that apart from this revision, the Department of Inland Revenue has been encouraged to increase their awareness and audit activities to discourage fraudulent statements. I say to all Bahamians under the sound of my voice, it is expected that all all businesses continue to file transparent, precise statements because the pace and frequency and other audits will increase. And for those who may have some intentions to rip off the Bahamian people through false and smudgy statements, I will tell you now that no politician from that house or this house will be able to save you. And as the old saying says, a word to the wise is sufficient, and a hard head don't make good soup. Madam President, these final set of amendments reaffirm not through just words, but through actions via its commitment to making it easier for Bahamians to do business in their own country. The proposed amendments in paragraph 4 means that persons filing for a renewal of a business license does not have to go through the full process of obtaining the approvals once again from all of the regulators. After listening to the complaints of the business owners, they have expressed how the process was so frustrating, etc. The people's government has saw where the government in the past has allowed the business license unit to be responsible for the enforcement arm of all regulators. And because of this keen observation, this move means that the business license unit will now only focus on its primary job, which is to license businesses. The regulators will provide the business license unit with information it has on delinquent licensees before the licensing period, or be required themselves to address the business otherwise within the parameters of the law. But the business license unit will no longer serve as the judge, jury, or executioner for these other agencies. Madam President, what I like about this bill, besides the fact of the ease of doing business, is that this bill will benefit a lot of persons and will bring relief to 80% of the businesses in the Bahamas. You keep in mind, only 20% generate more than 100,000, and out of that 20%, there are only 24 companies that contribute up to 50% of the country's revenue. Madam President, once again, the government is about making it easier for businesses to do business in these amendments. Tied with the provisions already in law will cause Bahamians to actually witness firsthand how much easier the government is making it for them to start businesses and stay in business. Madam President, I support this bill.
As many, the chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Clay Sweeting.
Madam President, I stand along with other senators present to provide a few comments on the Business License Amendment Bill 2018. I will say from the onset that we do support this bill because we support Bahamian business. However, if I didn't know any better, I would think that this government was competing with Walmart. But instead of rolling back prices, they're rolling back policies, rolling back initiatives, and what they put in place after realizing they have fumbled the ball, they try their best to recover and fumble again. Madam President, the government boasts about being business friendly, and in their own manifesto promised an ease of doing business initiative. But where is it? Small businesses drive our economy in our communities, and they deserve to be treated better. The economies of the Family Islands are built upon small business. During FNM's first budget cycle, they provided relief to big businesses. Then, to add insult to injury, for small businesses, the FNM initiated a policy this year where businesses must, with application, provide the government with certified bank statements. Madam President, this was an intrusive policy. No consultation with the business community, no consultation with the Chamber of Commerce, and the backlash was so evident that we are here today to fix another misstep by this government. This FNM government is very good, though, almost David Copperfield-like, how with a sleight of hand, electricity costs increase drastically, then they give you VAT exemption up to $300 to make you feel good. With the increase in VAT, businesses are finding it harder and harder to survive, never mind being successful. But the government waives a $100 fee on business license and brags about it as if they expect that to have a major impact on the business of this country. The Prime Minister, in his contribution to the House, made a statement that in light of the recently debated legislation around our offshore sector, we will defer these and other planned changes until such is considered a broader tax reform effort. So is this waiving fees just another distraction before a new tax is enforced on businesses? Does the government intend to incorporate a corporate tax in the not-too-distant future? Do they expect the small businesses to be in the streets in front of the House celebrating and waving the red and blue pom-poms? While it may be of good intentions, other roads are paved with good intentions as well. Madam President, if the government wanted to do something impactful, why wouldn't they eradicate some of the bureaucracy that businesses has to endure when applying for business license? In the Family Islands, it could take up to 4 weeks to get all the necessary documentation from the relevant authorities before you can even apply for a business license. Some government agencies are non-responsive, and the process of acquiring license is already stringent and to some may be overwhelming. Why the government wouldn't start there? Where is business license reform? What is so funny is that the Prime Minister appointed an Ease of Doing Business Committee in 2017, and we have not seen one substantial impact yet on making life easier for business owners. There was a press statement in November 2017 that this committee had made recommendations to Cabinet. Did Cabinet ever read the recommendations, or they decided not to take the advice of the committee? When the former PLP administration implemented VAT and a new online business application system, the government at that time listened, they consulted, and it was noted as one of the smoothest new tax implementations and was recognized by international bodies. The World Bank pointed out that the Bahamas made starting a business easier by merging the process of registering for a business license and registering for a value-added tax, and made paying taxes less costly by decreasing the stamp duty on the sale of land. The PLP government did that. If the F&M government wanted to do something impactful for businesses, why not provide them with more incentives that could in turn encourage people to shop local? Is the government aware of the world we are living in? Amazon, eBay, and online shopping is eating up department and physical stores. Look at the Bahamas. It seems as if there is a freight courier on every block. On Eleuthera, there's about 10 couriers on that island alone. Local stores are feeling the pinch, and the government must find ways to assist them by putting policies in place to encourage local economic growth. Madam President, since we are speaking about business, I would like to take this opportunity to quickly address a concern that is ravaging the fishing industry. The Spanish World community in the past year has lost 6 fishing companies to bankruptcy. Yes, you heard correctly, 6. And I'm sure Abaco, Long Island, and other fishing communities are feeling the pinch as well. I spoke at length during the budget debate of the seriousness of the hurricane devastation and the impact of poaching on the industry. The government needs to seriously consider more ways to assist the fishermen of this country. Here we are, just a few months later, and there are about 40 fishermen that are looking for new jobs, while we continue to have fishing meetings with no substance or positive results. So while businesses suffer, the government wants to pat itself on the back for allowing businesses to save $100. Come on, F&M government, put your thinking caps on. Madam President, the opposition time and again has supported this government on policies or initiatives that we feel will benefit this country as a whole. We offer advice, even though it is never taken, and we offer solutions, even though it is rejected. But here we are again, repealing legislation, and the F&M government is putting a little something in there to make you feel good, make you feel like this government has done no wrong, make you feel like they care about you. The F&M government is just bad for business. But the Bahamian people are not dumb. They're not blind, deaf or blind. They see all that you do, and they cannot be fooled. And I know the Prime Minister has claimed that he has made mistakes, but how many mistakes could you make before you learn from your mistakes? The people are tired of mistakes. They want action. They want business relief. They want good business policies. They want a thriving business environment. They don't want a handout. They want a hand up. The people of this country want to feel like it is their time, because I can tell you one thing, the F&M's time is running out. Madam President, thank you. And with that, I think this will be my last time speaking for the year. So I'd like to wish you and all senators here a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. We ain't speaking, or we debating? Okay. That's just amendments, so we won't be speaking. Right. Okay. Well, I'll give you 2 Christmas greetings. Thank you, Madam President.
As many?
Thank you, Madam President. Let me thank all colleague senators who spoke. As predicted, we were graced by a lot of fiery, hot air signifying nothing. Sound and fury signifying nothing. Safe. I heard my good friend, Senator Colby Davis, running on about not consulting with the people. Well, the PLP was a government of non-consultation. There is nothing worse, though, than having consulted with the people to spit the consultation back in their face. That's what a truly heartless government does. Do I need to remind the good senator of the referendum? They went to the Bahamian people, asked the Bahamian people, do you want gambling? The Bahamian people said no. No. And you all came right back, spat in their face of the voters, and passed your law. Talk about consultation. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves. Ashamed. The people got out of their houses, got in their cars, drove in some cases for miles, stood in lines in the hot sun, took time from their work, and stood in, of course, always had my purple finger. I could show you it. I have a WhatsApp of me going like this with my purple finger. No, stood in line for hours and voted a resounding no. And a cold, cruel, heartless, greedy, grabalicious government that wanted to get their hands on tax dollars from legalized gambling came and spat in the face of the Bahamian people and passed the gaming bill. Okay? So, before the words consult with the people come out of any PLP mouth in this or any other place, let them remember.
Excuse me. Now, this is when you all know the president and the chair gets a little bit antsy here. Now, there's one person on the floor. We will not have that consistent, loud talking over the table. Everybody had an opportunity to speak. I did allow everyone to speak without much interruption, so let's give the closer his due.
All I can say, that's what old Bahamians say. When you throw a rock in a pack, the one who get hit make all the noise. Okay, so I'm standing here trying to finish reminding the PLP about their sorry abuse of the very concept of consultation on a national scale, and all I can hear is Joe Bett hollering across the table at Jamal, Senator Moss. Okay, Senator Colby Davis, hollering across the table at Senator Moss. And, you know, hey, you all did it. It's your record. So don't lecture the FNM about consultation. And you see, we did something that a mature and responsive government does. If the people say it's too much to bear at this time, that the economy ain't strong enough yet, we're a government that is reasonable. I've had reason to say that many times. And we have proven it many times. And the Bahamian people know it many times, that we are a responsive government. We have a listening ear, an attentive mind, an open heart. And we will always defer and always consult and always act. And we continue to do so. And so on that note, Madam President, I now formally move that this business license amendment bill number 2 be read a second time and committed, and I ask that the question now be put.
It has been moved and seconded that a bill for an act to amend the Business License Act be read a second time and committed. As many as are in favor will say aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Order that the bill be read a second time and committed.
A bill for an act to amend the business license.
For the second reading and committal of bills.
No further second readings today, Madam President. It's Christmas, you know. There are no further second readings, Madam President, and I now move that the Senate resolve itself into a committee of the whole with Madam Vice President, Dr. the Honorable Senator, Dr. the Honorable Mildred Hall Watson in the chair.
Is there a second?
I rise to second, Madam President.
It has been moved and seconded that the Senate now resolve itself in the committee of the whole with the Vice President in the chair. As many as are in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Vice President, Senator the Honorable Mildred Hall Watson will take the chair.
Committee of the Whole.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I now move that the long title of this bill, the Business License Amendment Number 2 Bill of 2018, be accepted. Agreed.
Second.
I second.
It has been moved and seconded that the long title of the bill be agreed. As many as are in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The long title of the bill is agreed.
Madam Chair, I beg leave to move that clauses 2, 3, 4,
Short title.
5, oh, gosh, yeah. Madam President, sorry. Madam Chair, I beg leave to move that the short title be agreed. Sorry.
I rise to second. It has been moved and seconded that the short title of the bill be agreed. As many as are in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The short title is agreed.
Madam Chair, I beg leave to move that clauses 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 be agreed.
I rise to second. It has been moved and seconded that clause 2 through 9.
Yes,
Did you?
be
Okay.
agreed.
Be agreed. As many as are in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Clause 2 of the bill is agreed. 2 through 9 are agreed.
Madam Chair, I beg leave to move that the bill in its entirety be agreed.
I rise to second. It has been moved and seconded that the bill in its entirety be agreed. As many as are in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The bill in its entirety has been agreed.
Madam Chair, I now beg leave to move that Madam President do now resume her chair, if I may obtain a second.
Madam Chairman, I rise to second. Any chairwoman.
It has been moved and seconded that the President do now take the chair. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The President will now take the chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman.
Where is she? Madam President, I beg you to report that the Committee of the Whole has gone through the bill and it has been agreed without amendments.
Senators, the Vice President and Chairman of the Committee of the Whole has reported that the bill has gone through the committee without amendments. Third reading, Committee of the Whole, third reading and passing of bills.
Thank you, Madam President. I beg leave to move that a bill for an act to amend the Business License Act be read for a third time and passed. If I may obtain a seconder.
I rise to second.
It has been moved and seconded that a bill for an act to amend the Business License Act be read a third time and passed. As many as are in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Ordered that the bill be read a third time and passed.
A bill for an act to amend the Business License Act.
Where's the bill?
Order that the bill do now pass and the short title called the Business License title thereof, sorry. Let me just do this. Order that this bill do now pass and the title thereof declared to be Business License Amendment Number 2, Act 2018.
Thank you.
Further third readings?
None.
Consideration of House amendments?
None.
Resolutions?
None.
Discharge of select committees?
None.
Notices for future meetings?
Madam President, I beg leave to have renewed all items in the name of the government on the agenda and give notice that at the next adjourned meeting of the Senate on Monday coming, that we will propose to revert, go back to finish the amendments that will be made to the non-profit bill, and then pass it and send it back to the House of Assembly for their consideration. Thank you.
Would you like to renew notices?
Madam President, I'd like to renew notices on behalf of the opposition.
Orders for the clerk. I order the clerk to take the bill passed today to the Speaker and acquaint him that the Senate has consented to the same without amendments. Adjournment. Adjournment.
Thank you, Madam President. I beg leave to move the Senate on its rising be adjourned to Monday, the 17th day of December at 10 a.m. in the morning. If I may obtain a seconder.
I rise to second.
It has been moved and seconded that the business of the Senate will now be adjourned to which day? Monday? The 17th of December 2018. All those in favor would say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The Senate on its rising will adjourn to Monday, December 17th at 10 a.m.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the Senate do now adjourn.